Don't write the music. Let the music write itself.
Did you know that Billie Jean from the Michael Jackson song was a real person? Her story is dark, twisted, and tragic, and nothing like you'd ever expect. You won't believe the true story of Billie Jean. It's impossible to have missed the 1983 Michael Jackson Thriller album, even if you weren't born when it was released. Next to the title track, Billie Jean was definitely one of the biggest songs on the album. It was a massive commercial success and reached the #1 spot on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart and topped the charts in several other countries. Now, there are a lot of reasons why the song was a sensational hit, but its lyrics trump the other reasons. The lyrics described an obsessed woman claiming Michael fathered her child. This began to raise suspicion from fans about whether the song was based on a true story because Michael wrote it himself. But the real story behind it was so big that it remained one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Michael even today. And it all began with a woman who referred to herself as Billie Jean Jackson, although her actual name was LaVon Paulus. She was amongst a group of obsessed fans that pursued Michael for decades. But LaVon was so persistent that she became really famous for stalking Michael all through his life. She first came into the public eye in 1987, which was 4 years after the Billie Jean song was released. And the reason she surfaced was extremely shocking. She came forward with claims that Michael was the real father of her 3 children. And she didn't stop there. She also appeared in court and solidified her claims by filing a $150 million lawsuit against Michael. And no, that's still not all. LaVon went on to give a very detailed account of how she and Michael met, which was actually pretty believable. According to her, they first met in New York City in 1975, and after writing him love letters, he asked to meet her in his LA home. LaVon also went as far as giving a detailed description of where her children were conceived, which according to her was a blue Rolls Royce in front of his home. So of course, with that kind of detailed statement, people believed her, including the courts which ordered Michael to pay her the $150 million child support at first. The story brought a lot of attention to Michael, who at the time was preparing for his highly anticipated album, Bad. But it was bad publicity for him, because LaVon's story started to become more and more believable. She topped off her story with allegations that he proposed to her after a 10-year-long relationship. And when people started asking about their marriage, LaVon alleged it was held off due to some family issues. This brought Michael under a lot of fire for abandoning his children, which supposedly were LaVon's then 5-year-old twins and an 11-year-old son. Michael was quiet at the start of all this, and LaVon was gathering more sympathy with her very believable stories. She even told the courts that she had initially opted for a quiet settlement because she believed that they would be getting married soon. But things took a different turn when Michael spoke up through his publicist at the time, Lee Salters, who dismissed the claims as ridiculous lies. It sparked a lot of reactions because a lot of people had believed LaVon's story. Eventually, a spokesperson for a state welfare agency revealed LaVon had previously named other celebrities as the father of her children, but Michael was the only one she filed a paternity lawsuit against. The agency also took custody of the children after it was discovered that LaVon left 2 of them alone at a religious center in Chicago, and at the time of the lawsuit, the children were living with relatives in New York City. This caused the courts to eventually annul the case, particularly when it was found that LaVon had no biological evidence to support her claims. Everything was quite chaotic, and many fans were torn in believing the supposed Billie Jean Jackson or Michael Jackson. Curiously, in the lyrics of Billie Jean, Michael cautioned Billie Jean that the lie becomes the truth. Sadly, the rumors were hurting Jackson's career, which had been thriving and growing rapidly at the time. But everything changed when the actual truth was revealed, and the truth was an unbelievably insane twist of events. It turned out that the lawsuit wasn't the first legal encounter Michael was having with the alleged Billie Jean Jackson. In fact, they had numerous encounters before that, which had been going on for about 4 years. LaVon was apparently experiencing delusions that led her to believe she was engaged to Michael Jackson and the mother of his children. And on numerous occasions, she has tried to prove them to the point of hurting Michael. She once presented herself as his fiancée to the boutique clerks at Ventura Boulevard and instructed them to bill him for the items she purchased. It was also revealed that LaVon had been stalking Michael, and she went after him so much that he had to get a restraining order to stop her from being within 100 yards of him. But that didn't dissuade her. Subsequently, LaVon got charged with trespassing and was sentenced to 36 months on probation. And again, in September of 1986, barely a year after the whole ordeal, she was sentenced to 52 days in jail and 2 years of probation for trespassing once again. 2 years later, she was asked to appear in court again for violating the terms of the restraining order Jackson got against her in 1986. And even after narrowly missing a court sentence at the time, she attempted to purchase a wedding gown in Michael's name, and in December, she billed her $145 medical expenses on him. She eventually pleaded not guilty to 8 misdemeanor charges after being arrested in Jackson's backyard at Encino after trespassing again. It got so bad that even her attorney admitted that she could not be restrained with something as serious as jail time, and the judge offered to put her on mental evaluation evaluation for a lessened sentence. But LaVon blatantly refused. She preferred to be sentenced, so the judge sentenced her to 2.5 years in prison. And to drive home his point, the judge quoted lyrics from Michael's Billie Jean song, which everyone now believed was written about LaVon. And even LaVon herself confirmed it. But Michael vehemently denied, and he said in his autobiography that the song was written with no specific person in mind, but just as a total of the experiences he had with his brothers when they became famous. However, in his 1991 book, The Magic and Madness, Michael's biographer, Randy, asserted that it was about LaVon. He even revealed that Jackson had received a threat and a weapon from her too. This caused an uproar from fans, and LaVon was sentenced to 99 days in jail again in 1995 after trespassing Jackson's home again on 3 separate events. Eventually, LaVon heeded all the restraining orders and stopped troubling Michael. But a decade later, in 2008, she surfaced again with another claim that she was the mother of Michael's then 6-year-old son, Blanket. In a repeat of 1988's events, she sued him for $1 billion and demanded visitation rights to Blanket. She also asked for a say in Blanket's education, and she held fast to the claim even several months after Michael passed away in 2009, when she appeared again in court to claim Blanket along with $1 billion in child support. In court, she held fast to her claims despite lacking DNA evidence to back them up. She referred back to her 1986 marriage with Michael, which she had previously admitted never happened. And in an attempt to save face, she twisted all the happenings over the years around and claimed that Michael's family and the police had allegedly been threatening and stalking her. But the court denied her petition and ruled it off because she had no biological evidence yet again. After the verdict, LaVon reportedly stood silently for a minute as it all dawned on her that no one believed her, even though Michael had passed away and couldn't defend himself. And that was how the 20-year-long ordeal all ended. Since then, nobody has heard about her and no one knows her current whereabouts. But the legendary stalker relationship between her and Michael remains the biggest celebrity stalker scandal of all time. To date, some people wonder if any of her claims were because Michael had some sort of relationship with her initially, or if it was all due to her mental health challenges. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this. I would particularly like to know if you believe Michael, that his song had nothing to do with LaVon's claims, or if you believe Michael's biographer. Let me know in the comments below.